the fuck up the bad gloves.
But Patrick, we need gloves to protect our hands from the jellyfish stings.
I reckon Patrick's got a point. We've been talking about gloves all day. Maybe we should change the topic.
What the fuck up the bad gloves?
Okay. We get it. No more talk about gloves.
How about we talk about our next adventure instead?
Thank you, let's go jellyfishing.
2 hours later.
Send the flood, 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 send the flood.
SpongeBob, what's gotten into you? Why do you keep saying it over and over again?
Send the flood, 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 send the flood.
This is not normal behavior, SpongeBob. Are you feeling okay?
Send the flood, 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 send the flood.
I need to figure out what's going on. Maybe I should call Sandy and Patrick for help. This is definitely not like SpongeBob.
The next morning.
Your Majesty the gloves.
Your Majesty, the gloves.
Your Majesty the gloves.
Your Majesty, the gloves.
Your Majesty the gloves.
Your Majesty, the gloves.
24 hours later.
I've come to this world to avenge my dead guts.
Squidward, what's gotten into you?
I am no longer Squidward. I am the vessel for the one above all.
Miss, what have you done?
We have summoned the ultimate pair to bring justice to her cult.
The one above all will cleanse this world of impurity.
We have to stop this madness.
It's too late. The one above all has chosen its vessel, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
The following Thursday.
Squidward, what are you doing on my computer?
Nothing, just browsing the internet.
Browsing. Oh, looks like you were watching something pretty inappropriate.
It's not what it looks like, I swear.
Oh, really? Because it looks like you were watching Murder Drones Rule 34.
I can explain.
I can't believe you would watch something like that on my computer, Squidward.
I'm sorry, SpongeBob. I'll never do it again, I swear.
You better not. And you owe me a new computer screen.
1 week later.
Send the flood, 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 send the flood.
SpongeBob, what are you saying? You can't just keep repeating that over and over again.
Send the flood, 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 send
Oh no, not again. I need to find a way to snap SpongeBob out of this. Maybe some jellyfizing will help.
2 hours later.
Mrs. Puff is acting really weird today, don't you think, Squidward?
What do you mean?
Well, she just asked Mr. Krabs for a blowjob.
What? That's so inappropriate. What in the barnacle's going on here?
Mr. Krabs, I just need you to give me a blowjob.
What, Mrs. Puff? I fed her barnacles with it way.
No, no, no. I managed it in flighty so I can float in the what?
Oh, well, didn't you just say so I can do that?
Day for
Mr. Krabs, what happened? Why are the police here?
Yeah, they're saying that Mr. Krabs was driving under the influence and caused a terrible accident.
Oh no, I can't believe it. How could he do something like that?
I don't know, but it's a serious situation. Multiple families were injured because of his reckless behavior.
I hope they're all going to be okay. This is just awful.
I agree Mr. Krabs is in big trouble now. I wonder how he's going to explain this to everyone.
a lot of boring math later.
Send blood. Send blood, send. Blood, send, send. Blood. Send. Blood, send. Blood, send, blood, send. Blood, send, blood, send. 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 Blood, send, blood, send, blood.
What in the world is wrong with you, SpongeBob? Why are you saying it over and over again?
Send blood. Send blood, send blood, send blood, send blood. Send blood, 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 send.
This is getting ridiculous. I need to figure out what's going on with you.
Send blood. Send blood, 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 send blood.
Maybe I can use this to my advantage. If I can figure out what's causing this, I might be able to use it against Mr. Krabs.
Send blood, 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 send.
2,000 years later.